Hi book lovers, welcome or welcome back to Cozy Novel Niche. Today I'm here with the haul of all hauls for me. I don't remember the last time that I've accumulated that amount of books almost all at once. And the books that you will see are all kind of gifts from myself to me, except for two books. And these are the books that I bought for myself, kind of like a present for the end of the year, since if you watched my last video of the year, you know that I was a little bit at a low point, so I just needed a bit of a cheer me up, and I started buying secondhand books. So some of these come from a secondhand physical store, but a lot of them, the majority of them, actually come from Vinted. And this is not in any way sponsored. I'd wish to, but it's not sponsored, absolutely. It's just that I generally use this service, and all of these books come from there. So let's begin with this haul that's almost like my Christmas haul, my end of the year haul, my whatever, and probably my last haul for a little bit, because I mean I still need to figure out, well, where to put all of these books. But we will see as we will go. And without further ado, let me get into the books, because they are a lot and I will try not to give too much information about each and every one, because it will be too long of a video. So in no particular order, this one, this is Eva Evergreen Semi-Magical Witch. This is the hardcover edition that I actually owned and bought some time ago, but unfortunately this baby is one of the ones that was completely destroyed by the flood, and so I don't have it anymore. So some of the books that you will see here are actually repurchased by me in order to substitute some of the books, not all of the books that I lost, but some of them. I'm slowly rebuilding and rebuying, replacing the dead ones. So this is the first one. This is middle grade, and it's apparently it's inspired by Kiki Delivery Service, the Miyazaki movie, and so I wish it will be whimsical and lovely, and I wish to read this in spring, because the cover is just, I don't know, it makes me think about spring and hope and something new and beautiful. And since this was the first one, I decided to go with the other ones that are kind of like my attempt to rebuild my lost library. And this is Victoria and Abdul. This is a non-fiction book. If you've watched, there is a movie out there about the story of Victoria and Abdul, and yeah, this is a non-fiction book about the story of Abdul and the Queen Victoria, and I bought it some years ago. I've not read it yet. I lost it now, and so I rebought it. And the other one is about another very important and historically renowned figure, and it's The Reluctant Empress. So this book is about the Empress Elizabeth Sisi, and she is this is actually a book that I bought when I went to Vienna with my back then boyfriend or fiance, I don't remember, but who's now my husband, and this book unfortunately got destroyed, and so I rebought it because I've not had yet the opportunity to read it. Of course, it's a non-fiction book about the story, the history and the life of the Empress, with some photographs inside, and I believe that it will be a great and informative book. Next, I have two books that one of my best friends gave me for Christmas, and both of them are actually books that I needed to kind of rebuy in order to rebuild the destroyed ones. And the first one is by Ash, Oak and Thorn. It's the first in a duology, I believe, and this is, I don't know, cottagecore, whimsy, middle grade book, I believe. And this is one more that I wanted to read in spring, so I'm so happy to have it right now. And the other one is a book that I actually already read, but that I will reread for sure, and it's Lo Zen e la cerimonia del tè. So it's a book about the tea ceremony by Kakuzo Kakura, and I would love to reread it. Now that I've been to Japan and I've seen the tea ceremony in person, I would love to reread it with that in mind and see what are my thoughts about it. And let's keep going. One more book that I have here that was on my wish list is The Book of the Named Midwife. And what I know about this book is that it's sci-fi. It was highly recommended by Emily Fox here on BookTube, and usually I trust her opinion on sci-fi a lot. So I don't know much more. Like, Surviving the Apocalypse is only the beginning. It's the winner of an award, so it's not a very big one. I mean, it's less than 300 pages, so I believe that I will enjoy it, and when I will read it, I will let you know, of course, about the content. Then the next one is a book that I've seen on Peruse Project's list back in the days, and it's Great Circle, a novel by Maggie Shipstead. And this is a story about two women that's kind of intertwining, and one of the women, she starts circumnavigating the globe by flying over the North and South Poles. So I think it's a little bit generational, a little bit, I don't know if it has roots in something that actually happened. I will for sure discover when I will read it, and I'm so happy that I found it in this beautiful hardcover edition. Something that I love about Vinted is that I bought a lot of books in almost pristine conditions, or even if they are a little bit more beaten up, they're still very well loved and at such a great price, which was absolutely a plus. Next is a non-fiction book that I wanted to buy for a very long time, and it's Caste: The Origins of Our Discontents by Isabel Wilkerson. This is actually a book that I've just recently seen on Olive's Books top 10 non-fiction books of the last year, and this was on my list of books that I wanted to read for quite a bit, so I'm so happy that I found, again, a beautiful hardcover edition. It's non-fiction about the origin and the concept of caste and what it means right now, where it origins from, how it impacts our everyday life. I don't know if it touches only America or if it's like more of a global overlook, but I'm very deeply curious about this one and I want to know more about it, and I don't think that I will wait till non-fiction November, but this can be a great candidate for that. Next is a book that I was kind of randomly gifted, so I've not bought it and I just randomly ended up getting it, and it's the second volume, I believe, in the Pat Barker series about women of the Odyssey and the Iliad, and this is the second one. This is in Italian. I own the first one in English and I've not read it yet, and now I own the second one in Italian, so I just ended up being randomly gifted this one, so I don't know what to say to you about it, except the fact that I love that recently we are focusing on ancient mythology and trying to view everything through a female gaze, because that's really something fascinating and that needs to be done more and more, because we're so used to listen to stories told by men that we often forget that if the same story was told by a woman or lived by a woman, would be completely different probably. So this is something that I will sooner or later read for sure. The next ones are all books that I bought for half a price or for a reduced price at the secondhand bookstore. And the first one is a non-fiction book by Naomi Wolf, and it's The Beauty's Myth. I don't know if it's translated like, it's The Beauty Myth. And this is a non-fiction again that was on my favorites, on my wish list for a little bit, and I'm so happy that I found it used and in great conditions. So also I love this editor in Italy. It's the publisher, it's called Tlon, and I love their attention to details. There is an introduction written by one of the owners of this publisher, so I cannot wait to get to it. And I love the idea of analyzing beauty, the concept of beauty, what it means, how it differs in different places, how it impacts the life of people, and the progress and the way we interact with each other and everything else. So I hope this book will not disappoint me. Again, a great candidate for non-fiction November. Then I have a book that I wanted to buy in English, but then I found out that it was discounted, incredibly discounted at the second-hand bookshop, and it was a hardcover, and yes, it's in Italian, but it's a beautiful hardcover, and in Italian it's called Oscuri Talenti by J.M. Miro, and I think that in English it is Ordinary Monsters, while in Italian it's translated like Dark Talents, so I'm not sure why they changed the name, but I hope that it's the first one. And I mean, it's a beautiful hardcover edition. It's a fantasy book. This book is set in 1882, and we're following, I believe, two protagonists who are traveling from America to London and then to Scotland in order to reach, I think, a magical school. So these are all kind of buzzwords for me, and I guess that they are followed by a dark presence that is trying to get them for their powers. And I don't know much else about this book. I just know that I loved the cover. I remember seeing it on BookTube. This is definitely something that I'm buying because I bought because I've been influenced by BookTube. So yeah, now I own it and I have to read it sooner or later. The other one, I was not actually influenced by BookTube, but this is a book that I wanted to read for quite a while. It's very heavy. It is like 800 pages long, but it's very heavy. And it's The House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. This book, I believe that it has a very similar concept to Theseus's Ship. Was it called like that? Like the S1? I mean, it's a very particular book because inside it's very strange. It has parts that are underlined, notes, stuff happening. So from what I get, it's a bit of a thriller, not exactly thriller. It's kind of a book of its own category. And I don't know, I was always fascinated by this one, so I decided to finally buy it because it was discounted, and so I just kind of want to know what it's about and see if I will love it or hate it, because apparently it's very polarizing. Next, I have a book that is so well loved all around the internet and I've not read it yet, so I really wanted to, and I got it on Vinted, and it's The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I know that this book is about a woman who ends up, who ends up in this midnight library, and it is a little bit trigger warning. It is a little bit triggering, but I know personally some people who read it in real life and really loved it, so I hope that I will enjoy it quite the same, even because it's not that long of a book, so I will give it a try for sure. The other one, I was definitely influenced by BookTube and I decided to give it a try. It's a romantasy. It's by Vela Roth and it's called Blood Mercy. It's the first book in a series, a trilogy, have no idea. It's a chunky one, but what I know about this one is that it's a very slow burn and political romance. And I'm not a huge romancy girl, but a slow burn and political fantasy, this is something that I may enjoy. So I will see how it goes. I hope that I will just join the hype and love it, or just have fun with it. Even if I don't love it, at that point I hope that it's so ridiculous that I just can't have fun with it. Next, I have a couple of fantasies that were on my radar for so long, and I finally got them. One is The Last Magician by Lisa Maxwell, and this one I believe was hyped by Peruse Project, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. And this one also, I think, and it's Master of Sorrows, of Sorrows. And this one is a paperback edition, and it's the floppy one. It's the floppy one. I love such floppy books. They're just wobbly. I adore them. So this is one, and this is a stunning hardcover actually. It's so beautiful. I love it. I don't know how it's, no, underneath it's just plain, but the cover of it, I don't know, it's just amazing. And they are two fantasies. Right now, at the top of my head, I don't even remember what the content was, but they've been on my wish list for so long. So come on, I just had to get them. One more book that I got is Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. This is a well-beloved book that's been around BookTube for an incredibly long time, and I decided to buy this because this was the favorite book of one of Italian booktubers that I used to follow back in the days, and unfortunately he's not among us anymore, and so I just really wanted to read this book. I don't know, just as a way to remember him, I guess. And I know it's silly because I've never met him in person, but this is just something that I wanted to do. So here is the book, and I will finally be able to know what the buzz is about. Next is a book that I've read, or better, listened to as an audiobook, and I wanted to buy it sooner or later as a physical book, and that was the perfect occasion. I don't enjoy this particular cover, but who cares? The content is what matters, and it's the mouthful of a title. It's the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society. This is such a cozy and warm book, even if it's about war and people suffering. I don't know how to put it all together, but it was such a lovely experience, and I will for sure reread it because it's just so beautiful, and I want to experience the experience of reading it physically and see how I change, if I change my mind. Sorry, this evening I cannot speak English whatsoever. Then a couple more that I had on my wish list were Evie Drake Starts Over, and this is a contemporary book. This is a literary fiction contemporary book, and what it says behind it's like charming, hopeful, and gently romantic. So I mean, yeah, I need calming and gentle. I need all of that. Plus, it's not that big a book, so I wanted to give it a chance. And it was well loved by Olive, I believe. And since she's not a huge fiction reader and she enjoyed this one, I wanted to give it a try. Next is a cover by, I admit it, straightforward. It's The Ravens. I know that I've seen it around BookTube or Instagram or wherever it was, and I don't remember the content, but the cover got me, and it was so cheap that I just needed to get it. And some of the books that you see were not necessarily on my wish list. Sometimes I just needed to buy at least 2 books from one single person in order to justify the shipping expenses, because the book was so cheap and then the shipping was so high that I just needed to put together 2 or 3 books. So some of these are the result of that shopping spree. Then moving on, we have a sci-fi book by Ann Leckie, I guess, and it's Provenance. I've seen around the trilogy by this author, and it's so well loved apparently, and this is a standalone in the same universe, so apparently you can read this one without reading the other ones and the other way around. So I hope that I will give it a try and see if I enjoy the author before jumping into a full trilogy. So that was lovely to find actually. Then the next one again is like an impulse buy, and it was The Woman in the Library, and it says that it's a treat for readers who love books about books. And I love that idea, like the inception idea of books about books about books. I just love it. Plus it's so tiny. I don't know if it's like every person's story there is something to hide, so I guess that it's a little bit of a thriller maybe. It's less than 300 pages, so it's something that could be perfect for autumn, like around that time. And then the other one that I got is very beautiful, and I wasn't expecting the edges of the book to be like that, and it's The Weight of Ink by Rachel Kadish, and apparently it won the National Jewish Book Awards. And again, in this one we're following the story of 2 women in 2 different timelines, and apparently they kind of intertwine. I think that there is a bit of fantasy in it or something like that, but I'm not sure. So when I will read it, I will give you definitely more information. It's just that I loved this edition, the cover and the title, it got me, so I just needed to have it. we're almost there. Now we have a tiny little one that was on my wish list for so long, and it is Persephone, La luce del buio by Elda Fossi. And this one is about Persephone, and it's, I don't know if it's a retelling, not a retelling, a telling of her story and pieces of her story put together, or if it's an analysis of the goddess herself and just what it means to be half in light and half in darkness. I'm not sure, but it's so tiny and I wanted it for so long, and finally I found it used, that I hope to read it as soon as possible. Just 5 books to go! The next one that I have here is The Immortalist by Chloe Benjamin. If you knew the date of your death, how would you live your life? This is a fascinating concept. I've seen this book around with a completely different cover, so I don't know like what the two covers mean together actually, because they're completely different, but I will see what I think about it. It's just, in this case, I was just sold by the idea of knowing when you will die and what would you do with the time that you have. The next book was actually shortlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction for 2023, and it's The Marriage Portrait. It is in that edition that I don't like. I don't like this way of making books with this part. Like I just don't like it. I don't know why they keep doing it. But this was also a Sunday Times bestseller. It was on my wish list. I've seen it around on so many booktuber channels, and what it says behind just tells you all. In the winter of 1561, Lucrezia, Duchess of Ferrara, is taken on an unexpected visit to a country villa by her husband Alfonso. As they sit down to dinner, it occurs to her that their journey to this lonely place has a sinister purpose. He intends to kill her. Well, I love it already. I love it. And the last 3 books are all in French, because I'm definitely setting it as a goal for myself to read more in French. And I have a book that I repurchased after my first edition was destroyed, and it's L'Allée du Roi by Françoise Chandernagor, I guess. And this book I actually bought in Versailles, so it had such a precious memory for myself, and now I rebought it. And while buying this, I also bought another one by the same author, and it's Les Enfants d'Alexandrie, and this one speaks about the daughter, or the like, just the next generation after Cleopatra, what happened to them, I guess. The son or the daughter, I'm not sure. So now I have these 2 by the same author. Plus I bought myself a fantasy, a chunky fantasy in French, and it's called Le Renard et la Couronne. And sorry for my pronunciation, don't quote me on that, I'm horrible with my French. And it is about our main protagonist, who is 10 years old, and after the death of her grandmother, she starts an adventure throughout the whole Europe. So this seems lovely, plus I love the cover, and it's a chunker. I mean, how long it is? It's almost 600 pages long. Like, what? And yeah, this is everything. I think I've received all of the parcels that I was expecting, and now I just need to find a place for them, and I need to decide what to prioritize. And just let me know down below if you've read any of these books, or if you're curious about any of them and I should prioritize them and read them and let you know about them. And yeah, let me know when was the last time when you bought for yourself some books as a gift. I hope that you've not went overboard like myself in this case, but it was a long time since I bought some books for myself, so I'm not that sorry about it actually. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Bye! Ciao!